What's up, my comic comrades? It's been a few months since we talked about DCeased here on the channel, and since it's one of my personal favorite titles, we're fixing that by continuing to break down the DCeased Dead Planet 7-issue miniseries. Back in August, we broke down the first 2 issues of the series, which introduced to us the new Justice League. So today, we're going to pick up where we left off at the end of issue 2 by covering issues 3 and 4. Yes, I know issues 5 and 6 are currently out at the time of shooting this episode, but we do these videos 2 issues at a time, meaning we'll cover issues 5 and 6 in a later episode, before ultimately giving you the grand finale with issue 7. In any case, if you didn't watch our DCeased Introduces a New Justice League video, be sure to do that before watching this video, which you can see right here. Because if you haven't watched that episode or read issues 1 and 2 of Dead Planet for yourself, you're gonna be lost, as this episode is picking up exactly where issue 2 left off. So with all that said, spoilers incoming for this series. Now let's finally jump into it. The issue starts off in Australia inside of a giant plant ball that Swamp Thing created to protect what's left of the Shadow Pack. We see Detective Chimp ask Zatanna if she's okay. She says yes, so Constantine asks, "Are you an agent of the Unliving?" And she replies, "No." Constantine then replies, "Good." She then asks, "What happened?" And he says, "We got our butts kicked. You had your lungs filled with anti-living plastic man." She's like, "Well then, how am I alive?" And Detective Chimp tells her, "Blue Devil saved you, but he didn't make it. Ragman fell too." The next page then shows us a huge panel of the anti-living plastic man attacking the plant ball that Swamp Thing made to protect him and his friends. Constantine then tells Zatanna, "We're in a ball of plants, surrounded by a rampaging, shape-shifting monster beside a wall of hellfire, which is why we needed you to wake up." Then Zatanna says, "What are you proposing?" Constantine and Detective Chimp then answer her saying, "We're next to a wall of hellfire. That stuff will burn through anything and anyone." And Zatanna's like, "Oh, I see." Zatanna then says, "Swamp Thing, call off the green in 3, 2, 1, as she burns the anti-living Plastic Man to a crisp with hellfire. With Plastic Man defeated, the Shadow Pack looks at the remains of their friends, like Ragman and Blue Devil, but Constantine eventually says, "Can we move this regret to somewhere that isn't between a wall of hellfire and an onrushing horde of the anti-living?" Captions in the comic then say, "We weren't prepared for an undead Plastic Man. We were even less prepared for the evil we found hiding in the bunker." When all of a sudden machine guns start firing at Swamp Thing from inside the bunker. But I mean, come on, it's Swamp Thing. He probably sees the machine gun fire as annoying gnats. In any case, the comic continues to say, while referring to the evil inside the bunker, it's not the anti-living. It's a different kind of evil, cold and calculating, absolutely detestable in every way. The bunker was a refugee full of rich bastards. As we see Penguin and Maxwell Lord come out saying, "If you're planning on coming in, this is your window, or you could lie in the dirt and die. I really don't care." The comic then takes us to Ivy's garden in Gotham, where we see Batman is sewing Superman's cape. Keep in mind, Bruce Wayne is dead in this continuity, and the new Batman is now Damian Wayne. A voice then says, "Not gonna lie, I never imagined Batman sewing." Damian answers saying, "My father was too dependent on Alfred. It was a little embarrassing. Batman should be entirely self-sufficient. Batman should sew." We then see that the voice is Jim Gordon saying, "It's good to see you, son, and it's good to have Batman back." Jim then goes in for a handshake, but Damian says, "Oh, come here," giving him a huge hug. To which Jim responds, "Your father wasn't a hugger." Damian replies, "Oh, believe me, I remember, but I'm not as emotionally stunted. We're just lucky Scarecrow never realized Bruce's greatest fear was intimacy." Jim's like, "Yeah, Batman could have been chased out of Gotham by a supportive pat on the shoulder." And I just gotta pause here for a second to say this little back and forth was golden. Anyway, Dr. Fate then flies in, interrupting them, saying, "Damian Wayne, Superman's healing was successful. He will awake soon." We are then taken to the Tower of Fate, where Superman, aka Jonathan Kent, wakes up. Because remember, his father Clark Kent was infected at the end of the original DCeased story, so he took up his father's mantle. Anyway, he's greeted by Crypto and Mary Marvel, who was sleeping by the bed waiting for him to wake up. John then asks, "Where am I?" Mary replies, "You're in the Tower of Fate, safe in Poison Ivy's garden. You were stabbed with a magical kryptonite sword. It was messy, but Dr. Fate really lived up to his title, and I was able to patch you back together." Meanwhile, back in the bunker in Australia, Penguin shows the Shadow Pack around saying, "Welcome to the Southern Bunker." Maxwell Lord then says, "It's all quite civilized. We have our own soldiers and their families are employed as cleaning and cooking staff." Then Zatanna speaks up saying, "You seem pretty proud of your slaves, Maxwell Lord." Simon Stagg then says, "Their services given in exchange for shelter. They're not slaves." At which point Constantine pipes in saying, "I can't believe you found a way to keep the class system in place through an apocalypse." And I just gotta say, the first time I read that bit of dialogue from Detective Chimp, I was dying. That is pretty hilarious. While they're walking through the bunker, we see plant life growing on the walls, and Swamp Thing grabs a fruit saying, "The green, it's crying out in here. It screams." At which point Jason Blood comes out saying, "John Constantine." To which he replies, "Jason Blood, of course. Rich toffs have to stay together." And that explains the hellfire. Blood then says, "Can we have a word? Alone?" Once alone, Blood says one of my favorite rhymes in all of fiction, "Gone, gone form of man, rise the demon, Etrigan." But Constantine doesn't appreciate the rhyming as much as I do, saying, "Before you start, can we please skip the rhyming? I just lost 2 friends, and I'm not in the mood for amateur poetry hour." Etrigan just looks at John saying, "You are very mean, John Constantine," which is hilarious coming from a demon. Etrigan then tells John, "Hell isn't happy." John replies, "No, it's really not known for that." Etrigan continues to say, "Souls are locked inside the anti-living," and Constantine replies, "And hell is annoyed they're not getting a piece of all this Armageddon. Etrigan replies, beyond annoyed. Trigon is coming to wipe it all away. And he says this while we get an awesome shot of Trigon looking at Earth from hell. Constantine then says, wipe what away? And Etrigan replies, all of it. The people in this place plan a new human race, but they're not going to get a chance. Trigon is going to destroy this world, and nothing can stop him. Constantine's like, sure, heard that before, at which point they start hearing gunfire, and we find out it's soldiers shooting Swamp Thing. Long story short, Swamp Thing's freaking out because they've imprisoned the Floronic Man, and they're torturing him, having him force the Green to produce for them. Constantine says, Swamp Thing, these are some of the most selfish people alive, but people don't think of the Green like you do, so let's see if we could talk about this before we do something we're gonna regret. And he's saying this to him as Swamp Thing has Maxwell Lord suspended in the air with one of his vines. Lord is like, listen to your superiors, Bush. Swamp Thing replies, you release the Floronic Man now, Maxwell Lord. You will release the Green. Lord says, I don't take orders from a walking houseplant. So Swamp Thing proceeds to squeeze Maxwell Lord so tight with his vines that his head literally pops off. There's a pop caption sound effect and everything. Obviously, Penguin isn't too pleased with this, so he says, Professor Ivo, it's time. At which point, they unleash Amazo, an android with all of the powers of the Justice League in one convenient little package. But as the comic goes on, we see they don't just have one Amazo, they have several. At which point, Constantine is like, it's time to go, guys. We'll come back later when we have a plan. With the Shadow Pack retreated, we see Penguin say in a secret lab with countless Amazos, we won't need to be here much longer, Stag. They're almost ready. We'll take back the world soon enough. Meanwhile, Constantine and gang go back to Ivy's garden in Gotham to talk to the Justice League. Constantine comes up with a plan, but says, Cassie, who is Wonder Woman now, I'm gonna need to borrow your lasso. Constantine then goes to a mysterious house in the middle of nowhere to find Mr. Miracle, who we thought to be dead, but apparently he lived and only his wife Barda died. Constantine says, I need your help saving the world. Mr. Miracle replies, that didn't work out so well the last time. Constantine then says, what if I told you there was a way to save her? Mr. Miracle then says, whatever con you're pulling, I'm not biting. You're a walking bag of lies, Constantine. How could I possibly believe you? John then says, ask me, while holding out the lasso of truth. He then continues to tell Mr. Miracle, there's a cure and we could save your wife. Mr. Miracle then asks, what do you need me to do? John says, first I need you to take a shower or a bath because I need to convince people this plan will work and you don't inspire confidence while smelling like that. Then we need your help stealing the throne from a god as the comic ends. But luckily for us, friends, we have one more issue to talk about, so let's continue with issue 4. The issue opens up with John Constantine, Detective Chimp, and Mr. Miracle boom tubing in to Ivy's garden where the rest of the heroes are. And out of nowhere, Batman pops up saying Constantine, to which he replies, bloody hell, where did you come from? Batman then says, do you really think it's a good idea to open an explosive portal in the middle of a sanctuary during an undead apocalypse? Constantine then tells him, they're literally called boom tubes, and I'm sure they could change them to some soothing ocean sounds or something, but you know gods, they're all about the awe. Anyway, Batman then turns to Mr. Miracle saying, you're not dead scot-free, and Scott replies, and you've shrunk, Batman. Detective Chimp then starts to explain the plan to everyone, saying, Cyborg may have a cure inside of him, but he can't access it. Metron's Mobius chair contains all the knowledge of the new gods. If there's an answer to be found, it's in there. Dr. Fate then says, Metron is one of the fastest entities in existence. He cannot be caught. Batman then says, Metron prizes knowledge above all else, to which Chimp says, what do we have that he can't ignore? Constantine then says, how about the future? This is Madame Xanadu's crystal ball. Zatanna's like, and does Xanadu know you have that? He replies, I'm guessing she does now. Mr. Miracle says, this could work, and John says, I'm really gonna need that back when you're done with it. Miracle says, I'll take this to New Genesis, but I'm not sure how we'll be received. Superman then says, you'll be received with friends by your side. I won't speak for others, but anyone best suited for space is welcome to join us. Superman asks, where is Dinah? And Harley tells him, oh right, you missed it because you were skewered by a magic sword and bleeding out. Ivy said her and her husband couldn't come in, so she had a bit of a tantrum and flew away. I think she was probably feeling a little guilty about almost killing you and stabbing Wonder Woman through the throat. She then looks at the new Wonder Woman, Cassie, and says, it's funny, killing Wonder Woman and Superman used to be high on the bucket list of a lot of my friends. And Cassie just stares back at her with a pissed off look on her face while Harley's like, okay, maybe it's not that funny. Right after this, Mary Marvel's like, I'll come with you, Superman, as he goes looking for Dinah in the city. Eventually he finds her sitting on top of a building in the middle of the rain. And when Dinah sees Superman, she's like, John, you're okay. I'm so sorry. And Superman's like, I'm fine. Really. You couldn't have known. We also see that Dinah's holding her husband, Oliver Queen, aka Green Arrow, in a ball construct on a leash. Superman then tells her there's a cure. We don't have it yet, but we're going after it. We're gonna take on a god. We could really use your help. Dinah then tells him, I can't just leave him in the middle of all this. And Mary Marvel's like, don't worry. Me and Dr. Fate will sneak him into Ivy's garden. She'll never know. He'll be fine. So now with the help of Green Canary, Superman, Mr. Miracle, Mary Marvel, and Wonder Woman head to New Genesis, but not before Damian and Cassie have a makeout session. So for everyone who loved the Batman-Wonder Woman relationship in the Justice League animated series, we got a new version of that in this comic. Sure, it's not Bruce and Diana, but it's still Batman and Wonder Woman. Anyway, once Mr. Miracle and gang arrive on New Genesis, he almost instantly gets into a fight with his brother Orion, who's like, what in the fires of apocalypse do you think you're doing here? You would walk into New Genesis with the anti-life virus? At which point Orion just gives Mr. Miracle a right hook saying, stand. And when he does, he punches him back to the ground again. Superman then says, leave him alone. And the caption in the comic tells us Batman theorized that given his unique physiology, John would be stronger younger than his father. And then on the next page, we see Superman KO a god, with the caption finishing saying, as usual, Batman's theory proved correct, with a panel of Superman telling Orion, stay down. Right after this, Highfather comes out, which is obviously Mr. Miracle and Orion's father. At which point, Mr. Miracle tells his dad, we need the Mobius chair. Will you call out to Metron? He responds, he may not come. No one rules over Metron. He's only ruled by his quest for knowledge. So Mr. Miracle holds out the crystal ball saying, that's where this comes in. Highfather then shows Scott, aka Mr. Miracle, his son, saying, you should take him now. He replies, I brought him here to protect him. Highfather then says, Scott, that was 5 years ago, before you and Barda, to which Scott interrupts saying, don't. They then continue to have a back and forth where Highfather is basically telling Scott, don't let the pain of Barda's death prevent you from having a relationship with your son. It's a super interesting conversation, especially since Highfather gave Scott to Darkseid when he was a child, saying it was the only way to stop a war, so Highfather knows what it's like to abandon a son. After this, Mr. Miracle and gang go to where Apocalypse used to be, because if you guys remember at the beginning of DCeased, it was torn apart when an infected Darkseid leaped into the planet's fire pits and destroyed the planet and all who lived upon it from within. Anyway, they're there waiting for Metron, and when he arrives, they offer him the crystal ball as a way to see the future. And as soon as Metron goes to take it, they ambush him, trying to rip him from the Mobius chair. But that doesn't go over so well, and Metron is able to fend them off before sitting back in the chair and running away. At which point, Superman catches up to him saying, wait, please, I never wanted to fight. And Metron says, yeah, you did. Superman then replies, we need your help. Metron then says, I don't care. And Mary Marvel interjects saying, don't you, Metron? You're supposed to be one of the most intelligent beings in the universe. If we fail to contain this and death wins, what happens to knowledge? He replies, you should have opened with that instead of an ambush. Long story short, Metron agrees to let them use the chair for a second while he uses the crystal ball. Because he's all about knowledge, but the future is the one thing he can't see, so this crystal ball is very intriguing to him. While Metron is using the crystal ball, Cyborg sits in the Mobius chair and gets the answer for the cure, saying, I need to recode my blood. The life equation is there, and while Superman says thank you to Metron, Metron says while staring at the crystal ball, I can't be here, I must leave now, handing the ball back to Wonder Woman, with her saying, did he just? And Green Canary replies, yeah, he just took a look at the future and ran the hell away. It's at this point we're taken to Black Racer, who's looking at the core of Apocalypse, which is on the verge of exploding, with a caption saying, only Black Racer witnessed what came next. Only the god of the end witnessed the cool molten core of Apocalypse crack, and Death uttered 2 words, Darkseid isn't, as an anti-life Darkseid burst from Apocalypse's core. And I just gotta say, it looks awesome. We are then taken back to New Genesis, where Highfather felt the universe change. He felt his brother unborn, at which point he basically tells all of New Genesis, all hands on deck. While the comic says, but by the time he felt it, it was too late. An unliving Darkseid was already upon them, as we get an epic shot of an unliving Darkseid squashing Orion with his hand, ready to tear into New Genesis. But there you have it, friends, issues 3 and 4 of DCeased Dead Planet. Somehow this series keeps getting better and better. There's so many deaths and twists and turns throughout every DCeased title, not just this one, so you would think it would have gotten stale by now. But it hasn't. If anything, they've ramped it up. Tom Taylor and the whole creative team have really been doing something special with this DCeased universe, especially with this anti-living Darkseid attacking New Genesis and the remaining heroes. I can't wait to see where this goes. Again, yes, I know issues 5 and 6 are currently out, so technically we do know where this goes, but we're saving that for a future episode, so be sure to check back for that. With that said, what do you guys think of this DCeased Dead Planet title? Are you loving it as much as us? And what do you think is going to happen with this infected Darkseid? Let us know all of that in the comments. And just like that, that brings another episode of Variant to a close. If you like this video though, be sure to check out this one right here. And if you like our channel, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. It always helps us out. But I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things comics.